Good evening and welcome to 365 Days of Amazing Stories with Theo Mayer, day 128. I'm continuing the story of the goat-faced girl. Renzolla had been brought up by the fairy, her fairy godmother, in the most beautiful of ways. She was given everything she could possibly have ever wanted or needed. And her fairy godmother wanted to, bless her in every way that she could, and wanted to take her from being really a peasant to being a princess. Renzolla really didn't know better. Remember, she had been taken from her family at a very young age, and, here the king arrives, young king, unmarried, ruler of the land. He had sought out the palace of the fairy where Renzolla lived because he'd been out hunting, and he was still quite a ways from his palace and wanted to seek shelter somewhere. He came to the door, and Renzolla's fairy godmother, as fairies often do, knew that the king was coming. She went to the door herself and greeted him, welcomed him, made sure that he was showered with anything and everything that he could possibly need. He was taken by the beauty of the fairy's palace, and also by the care and reverence which he was given. Now, Renzolla's fairy godmother made certain that Renzolla was the one who really served the king that entire night. And when Renzolla, who had captured the king's attention through her wit, her intelligence, her charm, and her beauty, stole away his heart in the night, the king could think of no one he had ever met before that he was so delighted in. And so he asked for Renzolla's hand in marriage. And Renzolla's fairy godmother, of course, agreed quite happily to this arrangement. And in the course of the next couple of days, while the king stayed on, Renzolla married the king. Now, Renzolla's fairy godmother gave the king quite an incredible gift, a wedding present, so to speak, a great amount of gold. The king wasn't expecting this, was delighted by it. And Renzolla saw all that took place. And the king sent for a carriage to be brought from his palace to the palace of Renzolla's fairy godmother so that they could arrive in style. The carriage arrived, and the king made his leave, thanking fairy godmother in so many different ways. Took Renzolla by the arm and led her away. Now, Renzolla didn't even so much as thank her fairy godmother for all that she had given her. The fairy godmother took offense to this. As she entered the carriage, the fairy godmother cast a spell over Renzolla, turned her face and her head into the head of a goat. Now, Renzolla couldn't see this transformation. She didn't feel it. She didn't know what had happened, but everyone else saw what she looked like. The king, he had turned away and looked where the carriage was going. When he turned back to look at Renzolla, he was shocked. And he thought to himself, what had happened? What happened to the sparkling eyes that had captured his heart? What had happened to the beautiful dark hair that had glistened and caught his attention? What happened? He thought to himself, I can't live with this, and I will not be embarrassed by having a wife who looks like a goat. Well, he had the carriage driven to a turret-like structure that was within his kingdom and within his palace's walls, but off to itself. And only one person stayed there with Renzolla, which was a handmaiden. The king was distraught. Wondered what to do next. He had pledged his life and allegiance to Renzolla, and here she was transformed. Well, the thought came to him that he would take to the turret a large amount of flax to have it spun. And he gave both the handmaiden and Renzolla the same amount of flax and asked that in a week's time, when he came back, that it would be spun into beautiful thread. Well, the handmaiden, obedient to the king, immediately set herself to the task. But Renzolla, again, who knew nothing of this transformation that had taken place, took the flax and threw it out the window, saying as she did so, "What is the king thinking? I am not a peasant. I am not here to be spinning. I'm here to be treated like the queen. I will have none of this. He must be mad. What could he be thinking, setting me to such a task?" Well, as the days passed, Renzolla began to worry that her husband, the king, would come and think unhighly of her for having not done anything with the flax he'd given her. So she set off and made her way to the palace of her fairy godmother and implored her to help her in her plight. Our fairy godmother had a tender place in her heart for Renzolla, of course. And so she gave Renzolla the amount of thread that she would have spun and sent her on her way. But Renzolla, once again, did not thank her in the least. She took it all for granted. Well, the king was pleased by the spinning that had been done, and in a few days he returned and gave both the handmaiden and Renzolla a young dog, telling them to train them well, and that he would return in a month's time to see how the training had gone. Well, the handmaiden took on the task, of course, with great obedience, and did everything she could, well, to train that young dog into being a wonderful animal to have and to be around. But Renzolla, well, she threw the dog out the window and let it run free, saying to herself, "What is the king thinking? I am not going to be training any dogs or any animal for that matter. I am the queen. He needs to be treating me in such a manner. It is not I that should be, well, burdened with any such tasks." The days passed, and Renzolla again began to worry because she had not followed her husband's direction at all. It was only a few days before the king would arrive to see how the dogs had been trained, and Renzolla again made her way to the palace of her fairy godmother. There, though, at the entrance was an old man with a great white beard. And Renzolla, when she got there, she expected the door to be open wide for her. But the old man said, "Who are you and what do you want?" Renzolla said, "Oh, you old white beard, goat beard, who are you to be talking to me in such a way? I am Zola, and I am here to see my fairy godmother." "Ah, Renzolla, I shall return in a minute, and I shall show you what your lack of appreciation, what state your lack of appreciation has brought you to." The old man went into the palace and returned with a mirror, special mirror, so that Renzolla could see herself, for the other mirrors had not shown her anything but she thought she was. When she saw her face, oh my God, she lay down on the ground and began to sob. The old man lifted her up and said, "Renzolla, you have never thanked your fairy godmother for anything. In fact, it seems you don't thank anybody for anything. If you would like this pain, the suffering that you're feeling to go away, you must be thankful for everything that you have. Show your appreciation each and every day, just for the life that you have, for the breath that you take in. Go, see your fairy godmother. I'm sure that she can remedy this whole thing for you if you but appreciate everything she has done for you." Well, Renzolla, she immediately went to her fairy godmother and apologized, asking for forgiveness, which her fairy godmother immediately gave her. Her fairy godmother then returned her to her beautiful countenance that she had, and together with Renzolla made her way in a carriage back to the palace of the king, who, when he saw his wife back in, well, the state and the form that he had married her in, fell in love with her again. Well, didn't really quite. He was still in love with her, but his heart was rekindled in a way that, well, brought their union, their marriage, into a beautiful state. As far as I know, that they lived a very long time, governing their kingdom in a way in which each and every day they were thankful for the beautiful life that they had together. That's the story of the Goat-Faced Girl. Hope you enjoyed it.